Hey, good evening. Excuse me. Good evening, everybody. This is Mark here at Rainmakers Customs. Um, if you would, we'd appreciate it if you'd hit the like and subscribe if you're new to the channel. We do all kinds of different things here, primarily with CB radio and electronics based around communications. Um, Today, we're actually going to be doing some testing on some wire. I've got a piece that I had custom made for me, and the other is a piece of Thermex Teflon wire that's made right here in the U.S. So I wanted to go ahead and uh, run some basic testing here. I'll actually do a little more testing a little later on in regards to a little bit more aggressive testing with wire. But I just wanted to do a little quick video and do a quick test on some of the different properties. So, good evening, Justin. Shooting star. Oh, good evening time, good evening time. So, as most everybody knows, Teflon wire has been really getting very, very pricey. So, granted, I know I've got probably I've got at least a year's supply for my own personal self. Um, but knowing that the price has doubled and tripled on Teflon wire, um, started calling in and doing some different things with a few other people and places and what have you. So what I wanted to do was actually kind of show some of the different differences and show that you can get exactly what you order just based off of a few little things. So let me grab a micrometer here. Or rather, I should say a set of calipers because my micrometers are out in the other building. So this will be good enough for what we're doing. But anyhow, okay. So one of the first things that we want to actually check is the inside and the outside diameter of the wire. Now, American standards change from different places to different places. There is a million different reasons and variations of wire, especially when it comes to the outer skin. You're going to have a thick skin, a thin skin, and the Teflon. There is, like I said, just a multitude of different variations of wire. So I went ahead and I chose, because I mean, I've even got different variations as far as on the American Standard wire that I've been using for years, as far as on the Teflon. So I wanted to get something that was as close to what I ordered, and I've got several thousand feet of this that I had ordered, not just in blue, but in other colors. So I'll start out with actually checking the physical outside diameter of the wire. This here, and get it to where we don't have a glare on it. All right, so I've got exactly 100 thousandths on this. Okay. So I'm trying to compare as close to apples as I can. Okay. And we'll make a couple different measurements too. So that's 98.5 thousandths right there. So 98.5. Different area here. right at 100 thousandths. So 100 thousandths. Remember, there's a plus or minus of about 5% tolerance, even on the outer skin. So one more measurement here. There's 90.9, 99 thousandths. And there's 99.5 thousandths. So, like I said, there's going to be a little bit of difference, variations without your wire. Now, the two lengths that I've got, I've cut them just absolutely close as I can possibly cut them. Both lengths are 2 feet in length. So get this here in camera. So I'll line these up. I can show you guys. They are the same length. If not, we'll make sure that they are when we're done. Same length. So we got 2 feet. Now the major thing is what I call the burn test. So I've got my soldering iron set as hot as I can get. Now, granted, I don't have Bertha out here on the table, which is a great big old hog iron. But I've already seen in many cases, it's actually on, smoking, all that good stuff. So one of the things that I've actually noticed is with fake Teflon, you're going to melt it with just a basic soldering iron. So you're going to melt it with just a basic soldering iron. So this is the American standard. Should have already went through it by now. All right. And then this is what I had ordered myself. And I know there's a lot of fake wire out there, so you got to be careful when you order things if something sounds almost too good to be true. So solder off in there. Did not melt. And this was just a piece that I pulled off because I wanted to kind of see just how flexible it was. And this is actually pretty good flexible wire. But I've got the blue and orange because everybody's tired of white. So I've actually got some colors. So, all right. Now the next thing, and that's another reason why I've got this piece out here too, because again, you have to worry about, depending on what you're using it on. If you're using it on AC, what I'm about to show you is not going to affect it. And I've actually got these out. All right. So these are nickel anodes that I had ordered. Good evening, Bruce. Wild Bill. To the swamplands. Yeah, Louisiana. Uh, so one of the other things too that a lot of people don't know about, and I want to start with this because, like I said, these are nickel anodes that I bought for another project if I ever get to them. So this is not steel. It is not steel, but nickel has a magnetic property. So I wanted to let you know that, when you think that you might have something that has steel in it, it does not. So, bear that in mind. The reason why I bring this up was because, I'm going to do it now. So I think that was the piece that I had. Let me grab a piece that I know is. There we go. You'll see that it's got a bit of magnetism to it. So it's not necessarily copper, but it's nickel. So in most applications, this stuff is phenomenal wire. It's actually some of the best you can get on the market, especially if you're looking at current. However, if you are wrapping transformers, this is not something you want for your RF transformers. So that's the reason why we do some of these tests. We want to make sure that there's no magnetism in the wire. And this is silver-plated copper that I ordered, which is blue stuff. And the lady told me that it's actually mismarked. She had this that's marked at 200 degrees Celsius, and I think it's actually marked correctly. It's marked at 200 degrees Celsius, but she said the rating on this is actually 250 degrees Celsius. So, which I know a lot of places usually they'll underrate they'll underrate their product. That just builds in that extra safety margin. So this meter here is a milliohm meter. Most of you guys probably aren't ever going to see one of these, and it's not something that everybody has. So, what size wire? Well, it depends. If it is on the alternating current side, generally I'll use 16 gauge. The reason why is 16 gauge, you can run several amps through it with no problem. The 16 gauge is rated for roughly around 15 amps of current, so you can actually run a little bit more as far as surges, but generally speaking, it's rated for about 15 amps. So I usually use 16 gauge because it's small and it still adds plenty of, technically you could do 18 gauge if you're going to each individual module, because you got to remember, just because it's drawing 30, 40, 50, 80 amps, each individual wire is only seeing a maximum of about 4 to 10 amps, generally speaking, in that class. So, and then if you're using the Teflon, especially if it's the nickel Teflon, I don't know where that little piece just went. Anyways, if you're using the nickel plated Teflon, now that stuff you can actually draw about 30 amps onto it. So, I'm going to do some different load testing as well, going into some of the different gauge wires based on what you're doing. On the DC out, um, if it's on like the 40, 50 amp modules, generally I'll use gauge. In the case of these 100 amp modules, because of the fact that I am keeping length to a maximum of about 18 inches, you can actually run, because the shorter you make that distance, the more amperage you can pull or current you can pull through a piece of wire. You can actually get by with the 8 gauge. If you feel more comfortable, you can run 2, or you can run 2 10 gauge wires. There's a multiple different variations that you can run. But because of the fact that my lengths are under the 2-foot mark, the 8 gauge is going to be sufficient for that. Now, if you're needing to run more than 2 feet, I do recommend either running a second line, or running a little bit larger gauge, like 6 gauge, depending on, like I said, depending on your length. So, like I said, there's all different variations based on, what you're using and how long your wires are. Matter of fact, you can even use something like this, but you're going to need about 4 to 5 about 4 to 5 conductors if you're going to use something like this off of each side. So, all right, so let's check out the American Standard. I'll strip both of these back as close to the same as I can get them on each end. That way, again, we can keep things as close to the same as possible. So both of these are silver Teflon. Put our clamps here, right here at the ends of the wire that's been stripped back. Turn the meter on here. So there we go. Just turn on the lights for this blind people. I'll peel this off because I've not taken that off, and I've had this for a couple of years now. All right, so we have a reading of 0.00766. That's on the American wire. Hold on, this stuff is slick. This is also brand new. It's not set in a warehouse for 5, 10, 20 years and then sold to the general public. Okay, and on the new wire that I ordered, 0.00757. So it's actually a little bit better as far as on the as far as less resistance within a 2-foot piece. That's kind of one of the other things too that I wanted to see. There again, your platings, since these are silver plated copper on both of them, I would say this has probably got a little bit more, not much, but a little bit more on the silver content, since it has just a little bit lower resistance rating. So, but that's another thing too that you want to kind of find out is what kind of ratings it's got. Now this is supposed to be made to the same standards as the American wire. That was one of the things that I wanted to see, but I still like to run my own tests on this. Usually once you do a heat test, you pretty much don't have to worry about the other, a few of the other tests. I mean, there is an acidic test. Unfortunately, I don't have any battery acid to drop both of these wires down in to see whether or not the coating is going to come off based on that. One of the other things that you can do, which I wished I had some in here, carburetor cleaner works really good for a test. Another thing too that you can actually use, and keep it in here for some really rough stuff. Chemical test. Deep Creek. You know, that stuff really does good as far as on knocking off some rust and help loosening things up. So I don't have to worry too much about this stuff because I know what standards I had it made for. Nail here a little bit. Let's see. Not getting anything coming off of it. Like I said, acid would work the best. Unfortunately, I don't have any battery acid or anything extremely corrosive. Where's that? All right. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, 4 1,000, 5 1,000, 6 1,000, 7 1,000, 8 1,000, 9 1,000, 10. All right. So that's putting some serious heat to it. You're going to see anything will burn. It just depends on how hot you get it. 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, 4 1,000, 5 1,000, 6 1,000, 7 1,000, 8 1,000. So pretty close, about 2 seconds difference. But there again, that could also be the difference on the heat or how close. So pretty good. It's got the same markings on the burn. So I'd say that's pretty daggone good. As most of you know, I mean, most all of our electronics and most all of our wire, there's very little actually wire even that's still made here in the U.S. It's just how it's marketed. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I kind of wanted to show you guys. If you know what to order, um, you can get some really good stuff. Now, the reason why I'm also showing this is because anybody that's interested in this, I've got a couple of different price tiers on the wire. So some of you guys that want to save some money, um, please feel free to contact me if you're interested. This dip stuff that you use on pliers and whatever, that stuff just doesn't hold up. I've tried it a couple of different times. plastic dip is just not that great. As far as flexibility, the other thing too, got one last test. And this goes back to measurements. Just put this stuff here out of the way. Back on. Back now. This is almost just one strand. It must come out in twos. There we go. So let's do an overall first, which is what we're going to do on the other end. So we got 5.75 thousandths. .55 thousandths. So we have your gauge over here. Check the individual strand. Just 1.3 thousandths. .2 thousandths. So we're actually getting more wire for less money. I'll stay in frame here, guys. Sorry about that. Well, and that's what this is kind of all about too, is quick checks and things like that. You know, anything that I order, especially if it does come from someplace else, because I mean, I've even bought so much stuff that's been fake that's right here in the U.S. And you know, sadly, that's the reason why, you know, even though I'm assured by, you know, the different companies whenever I order something, because most everything that we buy here in America, you can buy, and you really don't know what you're getting or where it's actually coming from. You know, here, I know exactly what I'm getting, I know exactly what I'm ordering, and where it's coming from, because I've been trying to buy things direct from the manufacturers. You know, thankfully, I have found a few small companies that, you know, have some great products that are available right here in the U.S. For example, the 10 amp relays that I had the other day that I did, you know, I actually come across some of those, and I actually spent a gob of money for those whenever I first got introduced, because I could buy those here in the U.S. But the relays were $16, $17 a piece. That was the cheapest I could find them. which I mean, I was willing to pay that just to get a good, reliable relay because I'd had so many problems several years ago with buying relays. So that's the reason why I decided, well, let's go on and find, you know, a better method of buying. So that's what I've been trying to do now that I'm married to my wife. It makes it actually a little easier because I kind of give her, or I find what I want, send her the information, and then she's been doing a lot of the legwork for me, and getting me in contact with some of the different manufacturers that are over there. So it's been great in regards to that. Some of them I've found on my own. Um, she has just been able to speed things up for me as far as on some of the other uh, lost ways, if you will. But anyhow, like I said, if you guys are interested, like I said, I do have this that's going to be available. I have currently blue and Three Maid's favorite color, orange. Yeah, I know you would have thought the three wanted clear, but I've seen clear Teflon, and that kind of scares me when it's not colored. But I know that they do make a clear Teflon. I have thought about seeing if I could get samples of it, but I know that they do make a clear Teflon. I have thought about seeing if I could get samples of it, because again, there are so many different variations, and if you order things with specifics, like for example the M17, I think it's an M17 mil spec, which I mean that's kind of a general kind of a general specifications. Um, you can actually get that information and see what you're dealing with. So um, one of the things that I liked was the fact that the coating itself, this there again, you can get this in two different diameters as well, which I do have some in two different diameters as far as on the outer skin. Uh, but the wire itself is actually heavier gauge, 16 gauge versus 16 gauge. But the Chinese wire that's I know for a fact is Chinese wire actually is a superior wire. When you look at the diameter of the wire, uh, as far as right down to the single strand to the overall, uh, very, very flexible, very, very flexible. So if you guys are interested, let me know. Hit me up. I do have some for sale. Good evening, Mr. Carlock. I see you popped in there for a quick video. So, but I do have, like I said, I do have different types of Teflon. I still have some of the American Teflon as well, until it's gone anyways. But yeah, like I said, I've got several thousand feet in hand. This is 250 meters here. It's one of the smallest rolls I can have made. But like I said, if you guys are interested, hit me up. Otherwise, I'll be saving a ton of money. All right, guys. I'm going to get out of here for the evening. I still have to go to work. Still haven't even eaten breakfast yet. So. All right, everybody. Appreciate it. Like I said, just wanted to do a little quick video as far as on some wire. Like I said, we do have Teflon available now. Take care, guys.